So I invite you to take some deep breaths in and out and get your body comfortable. If you're holding something, you may want to just set it down for a moment. And if your feet are all curled up or crossed or something, you might want to relax your feet and allow your hands just to be comfortable in your lap or at your side. And take some deep breaths in and out, welcoming this day, welcoming this experience, welcoming yourself to the circle. Scan your mind and see what your mind is thinking. It might be anything and everything, not having anything to do with spiritual enrichment, and that's okay. That's how minds work. Just notice all those thoughts going through your mind without judgment. And then notice your body. Maybe do a body scan starting at your feet and moving on up all the way to the top of your head. Just notice the sensation on your feet, touching the floor. And all the way up your legs and torso. If you notice a nice sensation, just notice that. If you notice some discomfort or even pain, notice that. And again, notice your breathing. Notice all the sensations on your face and inside your mouth and on the skin at the top of your scalp. And another deep breath in and out. So we welcome you again to this session, first Sunday in Lent. Our theme this Lent is undone, as I think Pastor Jeff has outlined in some of his writings. And this means that we're undone and God is undone with us. But spiritual practices are ways to ground ourselves, to center ourselves in the reality of the moment, including the divine reality that's within and all around us in our daily living. For the last 2 years, we have placed 2 labyrinths in Alsdorf. They were designed by J.S. Hedegaard, who's my co-leader this morning. And they were placed on the floor of Alsdorf by some wonderful volunteers. The first year, we got to experience the labyrinths all throughout Lent. And then last year, we had a little disruption near the beginning of Lent, and the labyrinths got less use. So this year, we thought labyrinths are an important way to experience ourselves, life, and the divine reality. So let's do it virtually. It's a way to remember that it's not so much where you are, but that you are willing to engage in the practice and the experience of the labyrinth or whatever spiritual practice you might want to engage in. And that contemplation can happen anytime and anywhere and in many ways. Even in the time of Corona, we can contemplate. Contemplation engages the divine life in our deepest selves in ways that are beyond words. In our Western culture, we think that words and concepts are the most important thing. And words are very important, but there's a divine reality or just a joy of being alive that is beyond our ability to describe. Contemplation helps us connect with that aspect of life. Can words really describe how we love our children, how we love our spouse? We can try with words, but it's even better if we experience that love. That's a way that goes beyond those words. A place of experience. Just to be in the present moment without needing to figure anything out or explain it, this is contemplation. Contemplation is related to action because as we become more centered and more coming to terms with our inner life and accepting of our inner life, we are then able better to connect with the divine and with life, and that means with our daily tasks and as we interact in word and deed with other human beings. If we realize in contemplation our own divine nature, then we are able better to perceive the divine nature of everyday life and even those people and animals that we live with every day. In today's experience, we'll be doing two spiritual practices that you can also do at home during Lent. The first is the Labyrinth, and J.S. will tell us more about that in a moment. And the second is a nature walk. And again, J.S. found this on YouTube. It's just a silent nature walk through a forest in the Pacific Northwest. And if you're able to go outside in the snow or when someday in June when the snow melts, that's a wonderful way to experience the divine nature and as it resonates within us through the experience of walking in nature. But until we're able to do that, you can also do that virtually. J.S., I'm going to turn it over to you now for your comments about Labyrinth or anything else that you would like to say.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Good morning, everyone. I think most of us are familiar with what a labyrinth is, but let me just go through a couple of basics. Labyrinths have been around for over 5,000 years. They've been discovered in such diverse places as India, Greece, the Middle East, Ireland, Africa, and by medieval times, they were even in places like Australia and some of the Pacific Islands, and even in the American Southwest, what is now the American Southwest. So the idea of a labyrinth certainly had at its core some need in human nature to create labyrinth. A labyrinth differs from a maze in that a maze has multiple an entry and an exit and multiple false paths. Labyrinths have one path, and because the path is known, you don't have to worry about, do I turn left here or right? You just walk the path. There is only one. You walk it in, you contemplate when you reach the center, and then you turn around and you walk it out, same path. As to the labyrinth we're going to experience today, it is online. We'll start that in a moment. It'll take about 10 minutes. What some people do before they enter the labyrinth is to set an intention, and as they walk through the labyrinth towards the center, they contemplate that intention and then rest in the center for a moment to receive whatever it is that's available for them to respond to that intention, and then gradually move from that contemplative experience back out into the rest of their day by walking out the labyrinth on the same path. You may decide to just be and allow whatever spirit moves you to come to you as you walk the labyrinth. And you may have some other intention. There really is no right or wrong way to walk the labyrinth, except that it is traditionally done in silence.
By the way, JS did design our labyrinth for today. It's a good idea at the end of a labyrinth to take that moment to pause and offer gratitude for the experience. What was your experience during this time? You can, if you have a comment, you feel free to offer it. Again, there are no right or wrong comments, good or bad, just the way it really was for you. And go ahead and unmute yourself and speak. Junia?
At first, I rushed through it before you started putting the footprints in, just to find out where it went. And then it was just wonderful for the foot. Were you working the footprints, Jeffrey, or was that an automatic, or JS?
That was all automated. I put
It was-
that automation together. The
Thank you.
miracle of PowerPoint.
Well, that was perfect. And because I've been very tense and I really relaxed. I've just learned that my son-in-law in the Netherlands might have COVID. They're waiting for the result of the test today. And I've just been very upset. And this calmed me down, and I appreciate that.
So life happens, right? And
It does.
sad moments, it is what it is. But if we're tense within and we don't even acknowledge that, we are likely to be tense with ourselves and with others. So contemplation does not solve our problems.
No.
Contemplation allows us to be real with ourselves, which allows us to be real with others, and maybe a little more mindful than with how we regard ourselves and our experiences, good and bad, and how we regard the fellow creatures in our lives.
I had a little problem with it.
Yes, Betty and then Flurry, yeah?
Maybe I'm too visual, but it took me a long time to get my eyes off the feet and how many toes it had and which way it was going to go. And so I finally closed my eyes, and then I'd open them every once in a while, but I could go through the things that I was supposed to be going through, but I think I'd do better probably walking one than seeing the visual on the screen.
Yeah, well, and it's really meant to be an embodied experience. And JS has done the best she could as an artist to help us feel the swaying of the body. JS, you and I were talking about that this week. Can you say a little bit more about that?
I thought about doing like a visual of like as though someone was holding a camera and walking through, and you would be watching it from the camera's perspective. But that actually turned out to be too dizzy. And I didn't want that experience overshadowing. One option as to experience a labyrinth visually is to imagine one's body taking those turns. And if you find yourself counting the steps, just be with it and be at peace with it. Accept that that's where you are right now, and look for some other way in addition to counting to experience the labyrinth. But I do the same thing, I count.
Flurry?
When the footprints started, after, a minute or so, I was dizzy. I couldn't, so I shut my eyes also, Betty. I imagined myself walking the large one last year or the year before.
Right.
I found the feet making me dizzy and distracted.
I actually was able to, had all those experiences put together. So I started out, Betty, looking at the feet themselves, and then counting them. But after a while, I could just sort of fuzzy out a little bit on them and just follow that movement, which was helpful. And like you, Junia, and Greg may feel the same way, because we're starting the book groups today. I was feeling a little keyed up. So it was nice to just kind of breathe.
Greg, would you like to offer a thought?
Yes, thank you. I also, at first, ran through it. My eyes were scanning around. It almost gave me a headache. And then I had to tell myself just to slow down, because it's not a race. This labyrinth, and then it forced me to just slow down and think about just one thing, where these feet are going, slowly. And so then I started thinking about where I've seen this before, where this concept has popped up, and it is universal, like we started saying. The first thing I think I remembered as a kid reading the Greek myth of, I think, Daedalus and the Minotaur. So I guess, thought of it as a scary place where this terrible beast, the Minotaur, was trapped. But now, as for the piece of it, I'm thinking of how useful it is in a lot of places. Most recently, a friend of mine who's an architect, he builds healing spaces all over the place. And this is something that he advertises a lot, because he builds healing spaces, including some labyrinthine kind of hallways and things for veterans hospitals and veterans homes, Chicago public schools, just as a place for whoever you are, whatever you might need, just to get away from it all and think to yourself. So it's if you let it, it's just automatically a healing process just by being there.
At Vince's Hospital, Marion Joy in Wheaton, the architects built in many opportunities for contemplation. Of course, there's a chapel. It has a former Roman Catholic background, but there's also a meditation room. There's also waterfalls on the walls with music as you walk through different places. And there's a labyrinth built in to the building, basically. It's built in at the ground floor in the building. And it's open all year round. And it also has a little soothing music playing. And they thought that that's important in the healing process, to be able to heal mind and spirit as well as body.
Yes.
Any other responses? Many outdoor labyrinths are accessible to folks who are in wheelchairs or walkers and so on. Madge? Let me unmute you there. I'm trying.
I did.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's nice to think about other labyrinths. Grace Cathedral in San Francisco. There's one, I can't think of the name, of course, but there's a royal residence north of London where there's a big hedge labyrinth. And on television last night, there was one all in ice. Again, I don't remember where it was, but it was just huge with ice. So it's nice to think of out of doors. I've seen the one at St. Elizabeth's, but only from a distance. Outdoors is nice.
Good. We do want to reserve time for our nature walk today. By the way, welcome Judy Blanc. Nice to have you with us, Judy.
Yes.
Any other comments or responses? What was that experience like for you? Anybody before we go to the nature walk? Okay, let's try the nature walk. JS, do you have any other comments before we move on? No? Okay. Nancy has a comment in the chat. Glencoe Union Church members walked a labyrinth lined with luminaria, each light representing a number of people taken by COVID. Let's try the nature walk. This is again from the Pacific Northwest, a nature walk at half speed. And again, feel free to employ those same techniques of contemplation, of just being fully immersed in the experience.
Um, why did you choose not to have the nature sounds during the walk? I mean, again, it was
Yeah.
making me a little dizzy. I don't know, it felt like, it seems like I would have been able to enjoy it more if I heard the birds or whatever.
Yep. Good question. I think I know the answer. JS, what's your response?
Well, because this particular video, the individual was walking fairly quickly, we wanted to slow it down to make it a little less rushed. And that impacts the audio as well as the video.
Uh-huh.
Right.
Also, there was a lot of rustling of the individual's equipment rather than a lot of birds. But basically, because we changed the speed, that would have slowed down the audio.
I thought that was the answer, yeah.
All right, good choice.
I also looked at it full speed and it felt more like a jog than a walk. But you know, this contemplative life, you have to find what works for you. And there's a million ways of being contemplative. And if playing at full speed with the sound works for you, that's great. Jean?
I was going to say, you know that cartoon that's out there about the dog that keeps going squirrel, squirrel, and looking away. When the person came up, I was like, human. It was kind of very dog-like response. Oh.
Look, my own species.
No, for me, it was perfect. I adore the Northwest Coast, and I've walked in the forest there, and I have such good memories of it. And I guess I'm more of a woods person than a cement, but I loved it.
Thank you. I saw Junia's hand and then maybe Flurry's also. Junia?
The scene that's behind me is my favorite place for a walk in the woods. And whenever I'm in California, I go there. So this is great. However, at the beginning, I worried about the roots and the rocks because I've tripped over those and I couldn't get that out of my system. But then it was lovely. And we were always going toward the light. That was lovely. We never got to the light though. We stopped before we got there. I don't know if we can look at this on our own later on. It'd be nice to see the final product, but that was nice. And I could almost smell those ferns.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I will include a link to this, some other resources that we've used today in the spiritual enrichment update. Flurry?
I have a friend who goes to the Far East often, and she's an Ikebana certified floral designer, and she is now sort of into what I guess the Japanese, I don't know the word for it in Japanese, but they call it forest bathing. And I think it was last week in the Wall Street Journal, there was a large article about that. And they've done lots of studies about how being in nature, in the woods, where generally, excuse me, it's quiet and is very beneficial to one's health. It lowers your blood pressure. It does a lot of those things. And that video then reminded me of that.
I had a friend who led us through a virtual forest bathing online in Zoom. And I agree, it's a fabulous experience. Again, a different way of experiencing contemplation and one's connection with nature. And it's very moving.
In terms of Christian contemplative practices, there are quite a number. Some of you have heard of them, I'm sure. Lectio Divina and centering prayer are perhaps the two most familiar, there's a centering prayer group that meets on Tuesdays at 2 o'clock in Winnetka at Christ Church. And these days, of course, last year they've been online, and their numbers have gone up. There's like 20 people in this group now. I attend once in a while. When I attended in person at Christ Church, there were maybe only 4 or 5 people. And now the group has turned over. There's only 2 or 3 of those original 5. And there's all these other new people. And it's 20 minutes of silence in the contemplative prayer tradition, centering prayer tradition, and followed with some conversation about the spiritual life and also what the experience was like for the participants. And if you're interested in that, I'd be happy to hook you up with that resource. And you don't have to go every Tuesday, just whenever you're able to. Okay? So there's a visual at the beginning of the meditation that will explain what it is. It's from the Buddhist tradition. This one is particularly made for college students to help them in their contemplative life. And it comes from UNH. I'm going to guess that's University of New Hampshire, because I can't imagine what else it might be. And this is sound, and there's only one stable visual here. It's another kind of way of using the internet for contemplative practice. Bear with me.
You can experience more loving kindness toward yourself, others, and the world. First, please sit in a comfortable position. Now close your eyes. Beginning with your feet, visualize those muscles relaxing. Now please visualize your leg muscles relaxing. Focus now on your back, please. Visualize those muscles relaxing. Please focus on the muscles of your chest and abdomen. Visualize those muscles as they become more relaxed. Now please be aware of the muscles in your shoulders and arms, all the way down to your fingers. Visualize them becoming more and more relaxed. Now, be aware of the muscles in your neck and your head, including your face. Visualize them becoming more relaxed, so that all the muscles in your body become calm and at ease. Now please shift your awareness to your breath. Notice each breath as it comes in and goes out. Let your breathing become deeper and calmer, bringing relaxation throughout all of your body. With this meditation, I'm going to ask you to visualize different persons and then repeat in your mind what I'm going to say. First, please visualize yourself. Then say to yourself, "May you know peace. May your heart remain open. May you know the beauty of your own true nature. May you be healed, and may you be a source of healing for others." Now please visualize a loved one. And in your mind say to that person, "May you be healed. May you know peace. May your heart remain open. May you know the beauty of your own true nature. May you be healed, and may you be a source of healing for others." Next, please visualize a person with whom you presently have a conflict. In your mind, say to that person, "May you know peace. May your heart remain open. May you know the beauty of your own true nature. May you be healed, and may you be a source of healing for others." Finally, please visualize the world, whether you do so by picturing billions of people or by picturing the blue ball out in dark space. Say in your mind to the world, "May you know peace. May your heart remain open. May you know the beauty of your own true nature. May you be healed, and may you be a source of healing for others." When you are ready, you may open your eyes and carry this feeling of loving kindness with you into your day.
So we end at that place. Metta meditation is very popular among spiritual directors and clients that I work with. It's very appealing. I have a friend who is an inpatient counselor at a drug rehab center, and she uses metta meditation in groups at the drug rehab facility. But she says she doesn't start with self, because people who are inpatient in drug rehab have such a negative self-worth that it's hard for them to start at their self. So they actually start with others and move out and then return to the self and end at that point of blessing yourself. So